Greetings, my name is Linda Akunwafor and I am a graduate student at Bowie State University studying counseling psychology. And I am here to talk to you about school counselors. What are they good for? Some may say, absolutely nothing. Well, I absolutely disagree. School counselors are good for a lot. But before we get into all that, I'd like us to do a relaxation technique because they say people are more able to take in information in a relaxed state. So this technique is called deep breathing. Very easy. You can use this technique at any time, anywhere. Not only is it good for relaxation, but it is also good for calming stress, calming anger, calming anxiety, even getting you mentally focused. So, what does this deep breathing thing look like? Very easy. What you do is inhale slowly through the nose, like so. And then you exhale even more slowly through the mouth, like so. Wasn't that easy? All right. So remember, the key is to inhale slowly through the nose, exhale even more slowly through the mouth. So let's try it again. Inhale slowly through the nose. Exhale even more slowly through the mouth. Let's try it again. Inhale. And exhale. Shall we do it one more time? Okay, one more time. Inhale. And exhale. Now that I've got you nice and relaxed, let's get talking about school counselors. You're probably wondering, who are they? You may have never heard of a school counselor before, or have you? School counselors are also known as guidance counselors, career counselors, vocational counselors. And their purpose is to address the needs of students academically, emotionally, and socially. They are also collaborators with teachers and parents. Now, what does it take to become a school counselor? Do you need certain education? Do you need certain credentials? All school counselors have at least a master's degree in school counseling. And while working to obtain that master's, they are doing advanced coursework in areas such as human growth and development, counseling theory, individual and group counseling, social and cultural foundations, testing and assessment, research and program evaluation, professional orientation, and career development. In addition, they are also required to obtain experience hours known as practicum and internship. And these experience hours must be gained under the supervision of a licensed school counselor. Not only are they gaining experience hours under licensed supervision during their coursework for the master's, but they are also gaining those hours after gaining their master's, which will help them be eligible for the final step, which is licensure. And licensure can vary by state. And the state that you are licensed in is the state that you are practicing. But of course, if, say, someone licensed in California moves to Maryland, they can also become licensed in Maryland. Where did this whole school counselor thing come from? Where did they get this idea for a school counselor? Let's go back in time. Picture it. 1917. Industrial workforce is booming. So, someone came up with a fantastical idea. Yes, I said fantastical. Idea to provide funding to secondary schools for guidance programs. And in these guidance programs, you have the guidance counselor who is there to help the student prepare for the workforce. Someone did something right, because that role became more about just the workforce. It also became about academics, and you began to see the guidance counselor not only in secondary schools, but also in elementary schools. In addition to that, individual states, starting with New York, began implementing requirements for certification to be a guidance counselor. Fast forward a couple decades or so, and we've got the rapid progression of the third wave psychology movement, known as your humanistic and person-centered movements. Thanks to the progression of these movements, the school counselor role became more holistic. So it wasn't just about academics and career, but it was also about emotional and social development. We fast forward to today. What are school counselors doing now, currently? It depends. It depends on the state. It depends on the school district. It even depends on the individual school. And their duties can vary. They can be doing things in the areas of academic support, individual counseling, supporting parents and teachers. Wonderful. But then there's the not so wonderful, which is their duties may include administrative and clerical tasks. Not so fortunate, because it takes them away from the clinical benefit that they can provide to the school they service. So what would be appropriate and inappropriate for a school counselor? Thank you, American School Counselor Association, because they have a beautiful list of what they deem are appropriate tasks and inappropriate tasks for a school counselor. And I'm going to give you some of those, starting with the appropriate. So, appropriate tasks would be identifying and resolving student issues, collaborating with teachers for effective classroom management, interpretation of achievement tests, aptitude tests, cognitive tests, analyzing grade point averages in regards to achievement. That sounds pretty much like it makes some sense. Sounds like something a school counselor would do. Okay. What would be inappropriate? What do they deem as inappropriate? Supervising classrooms or common areas. Providing long-term counseling. You're like, huh? I thought they do individual counseling. Yes, that is true, but it is not meant to be long-term. If a school counselor sees that a student needs long-term counseling, they will provide them with the proper referral to an outside therapist. Maintaining student records. also deemed inappropriate. Now, analyzing grade point averages was identified as appropriate. However, there's a difference between analyzing and maintaining. Assigning disciplinary action. Now, a school counselor might be in on providing behavioral interventions, supports for a student, but they wouldn't be the one to assign disciplinary action. Substitute teaching, another inappropriate task. And finally, signing excuse notes for absences or tardies. They may assess, it may be brought to their attention that a student is all of a sudden frequently absent, but it's not something that they're signing excuse notes for. They may want to check in with the student to find out if there's something more going on, but again, they're not signing excuse notes. So how can you effectively utilize a school counselor? There are a few ways, such as addressing developmental issues. We were all teenagers once. Puberty can be just awful. Your body's changing. In addition, you're going through changes in your social circle probably. You're trying to assert your independence. You're trying to assert your identity. And at the same time, you're pressured to conform to adult rules. It's not easy. School counselors can help address that. And not just that, but other issues that affect youth, like your bullying, like drug use, like sex. Those things can be handled. Eating disorders, something else that a school counselor can help address. They can also act as advocates for parents, teachers, and students. For example, if a student is having a hard time with classes, maybe they're underperforming, and the parents notice that there may be something else going on, that school counselor can advocate for testing to determine if that student may have an attention disorder or a learning disorder. And that way, the student can get the supports that they need to be successful. School counselors can also facilitate detention or in-school suspension. I said facilitate. I didn't say monitor. I didn't say supervise. I said facilitate. They can turn detention and in-school suspension into teachable moments for these students. They can teach them ways to effectively problem solve, to manage their anger, to be assertive in their communication, to find out what it was that brought you here and what could you have done different. Teachable moment, not just sitting there whistling Dixie. And finally, they can also serve as mediators with teachers, parents. Maybe a student has a problem with their teacher. Maybe a principal has a problem with a parent, or a parent has a problem with a teacher. School counselors can help mediate this because they are on everyone's side and they want everyone to come out a winner in this. So school counselors can also be effectively utilized for that. Now, I'm sure there are many more ways that school counselors can be effectively utilized. And I invite you to please put your ideas in the comments. I'm sure there are many more creative ways that they can be used. Now, with that said, what are school counselors good for? They're good for a whole lot. Academic support, emotional support, social support, colleague support, advocacy, community relations. Your school counselor can do so much for your school, not just for the students, the teachers, the administrators, the community. They can be a big time help. Think about those times when there have been tragedies and school counselors were utilized to help students get through that. It doesn't just have to be a tragic moment that brings a school counselor into usage. They can also be used for preventative measures, preventative interventions, teachable moments for students so that they can continue to grow emotionally and socially and be ready for the real world. I'm done. And I thank you for taking the time to listen to the information that I have to provide. Take care.